You're listening to the Sass Says podcast. I'm your host, Christie Rocha, also known as Sass. I identify as a woman, a wife, and a mother. That should tell you a lot already. And over the last few years, I've learned the value of talk therapy. I have seen how my inner work not only enhances my own well-being, but also my marriage, my parenting, my relationships. And in fact, you wouldn't be hearing this right now if it weren't for the work I've done. My mission is to debunk the misconceptions and stigmas around what therapy is and who it's for. Let's normalize working on our mental health and seeking help when needed. We've all heard of self-care, self-help, and self-love, but do you often wonder how to actually make it all happen? I do. You'll hear strategy-based conversations with professionals, as well as inspiring and validating stories from women who are just like you and me. Think of this podcast as the weekly therapy sessions you didn't know you needed, with a dash of sass, a lot of vulnerability, and me, relentlessly asking, but how? Hello. Welcome to the third solo show of the month, focusing on motherhood, pregnancy, and mental health. Today I'm going to be sharing what comes to mind following my conversation with Melissa Fairhurst on the realities of motherhood and setting up expectations. Melissa poses a question to her groups. What's something you wish someone would have prepared you for before having kids? And I'm going to share with you what I would say. So you might have noticed that my show is broken up into categories. I'm highlighting those categories on a monthly basis right now. And I love when they organically come into play, as they will here. So for each category of my show, I'm going to share what I wish someone would have prepared me for before the birth of my children. So let's start with marriage, mainly because Melissa and I talked a little bit about it on the show. I said on the episode, and I'll say it again here, no matter how strong your marriage or your relationship is prior to kids, it will change. It will change once you bring life into the world, no doubt about it. And it will change again and again with each new life that you bring into the world, and even potentially within each phase of all those little lives' development with these kids, and how that changes your parenting and your relationship and what you can and cannot do, and how all the things, like even think about sleeping through the night. When your kid starts sleeping through the night, that's going to change your marriage. It just absolutely will. So that's just like a really easy, quick example. But anyway, you might have heard or experienced that new motherhood can be lonely, and some of why that is, I think, is because your partner, if you're in this very sort of typical heteronormative relationship, he'll be home with you all hands on deck for a week or two, and then typically he goes back to work and life while you are home breastfeeding and changing diapers. And don't get me wrong, there's so much beauty and joy and fulfillment in being the one to stay home, but there is a divide that happens in the relationship. Suddenly, you are in a position to coordinate when you want alone time. You got to run it by your partner when you want to take a shower or go see a friend. And while your partner may consult you on those things, he typically has more freedom to go about his life in a way that more closely resembles what his life was prior to having kids than the moms. I mean, I'm just shooting it straight. Eventually, you will figure out a rhythm that works for both of you, but like I said, then you'll have another baby, or then those babies will start school, and the whole schedule and flow changes again, and it's a constant adaptation and pivot over and over and over again. So what I wish someone would have told me is that your marriage is going to change. It's not, I don't mean that to say that it changes for the worse. It's just going to change. And communication, honesty, support, and grace are key. I really wish someone would have just said, your marriage is going to evolve time and time again throughout, particularly I would say the first 5 years of parenthood. So moving on to body. We all know how I feel about this, but I wish someone would have prepared me for what it would be like to not, quote unquote, bounce back The pressure I put on myself to bounce back, the ways we are encouraged to multitask and push through all the hard just to look a certain way, I fully expected to do it. I fully expected to pressure myself and hate myself into bouncing back, and I was not prepared at all to not succeed. If you've followed along for a while, I'm on a whole food and body journey, and I'm grateful for it. I'm learning about my body, about diet culture, about how pretty tricky my relationships with food and my body are, but I never even considered it a possibility. I never considered it to be a possibility that I wouldn't bounce back. I basically thought I won't let myself not look how I used to look. And really, there are aspects of that I just don't have that much control over. The hormones, the chaos, the pandemic, the stress, the therapy, it's all impacted me in a way that I never could have expected. And I think we could be doing a better job at preparing moms for anything when it comes to their bodies, particularly postpartum. So moving on to ambition. So I thought that I could work from home with kids, and I succeeded in doing that for some time with one child when she was able to be kind of like in a playpen and pretty happy to be there. But I was in for a very rude awakening when she started to move around and have a voice, and kind of trying to work from home with her present became so challenging. I never felt like I could be fully in with 2 feet with her or in with 2 feet with my work. And that was a learning curve and a whole set of experiences that I did not expect. And certainly when I had a second, trying to work from home with a toddler and a newborn was darn near impossible. And, I know that being a mom has the potential to change your ambitious goals and your outlook, right? Like I've heard from so many women that thought, gosh, the things I used to stress about in my job as soon as I became a mom just stopped mattering as much. And maybe you've pivoted your whole career and whatnot. But I think it's the type of thing what I'm getting at is that you don't know how it's going to be for you until you're in it. And so what I wish someone had told me was whatever your plan is when it comes to work and, your ambitions and your goals, be open to that plan actually not being right for you. And know that you might not know that until you've been doing it for some time. I left my corporate job as soon as I had my first kid. Like I said, I tried to work from home, and I still believe it was the right choice to leave that job, but I do look back and know that there was a part of me that felt like, okay, I've made this choice and this is the choice I'm in now. And so make a plan, but make a plan B. What if you think you want to leave your job, you're a full-time stay-at-home mom, and a couple months into it, you're like, well, this is not for me. Have a plan. Talk to your partner about it ahead of time. Say, we're going to make it a trial period maybe, or vice versa. You plan to go back to work, but you're just really unhappy and you want to be home. My advice is to have those conversations ahead of time to say, hey, this is what I think I want, but I'm really not going to know fully that it's what I want until I'm doing it and in it. And so what are the steps that we need to take to be prepared if I want to change my mind? I hope I just clearly articulated that. Anyway, pregnancy. Okay, so the second pregnancy was so much harder on my body than the first. I really wish someone would have told me that. I think there's a lot of emphasis placed, well-intentioned and all the things, on how much more prepared you are being a second-time mom, but the pregnancy itself was just a lot harder on my body. Not only are you now chasing around a toddler, you don't have the time space to just put your feet up and take a rest when you need to, but because my body had already been pregnant before, it just stretched a lot faster. It accepted what was happening a lot faster, and that put some added stress on my body. I just remember feeling like my belly button was just gonna like open up. And I'm like, what's going on here? And anyway, it's just really uncomfortable. And I think I went into the second pregnancy feeling like I know what I'm doing. This will be great. I'm so much better prepared and I know how I want to handle this pregnancy. But the pregnancy itself was so much physically harder that I really couldn't implement a lot of those hopes and plans that I thought I would. The other part about that is the actual connection to my baby. With my first pregnancy, I was just walking around holding my belly all the time, talking to her. My whole focus was this little baby in my belly. And the second pregnancy, with my daughter already out there in the world running around, I had some guilt about not feeling as connected to my son and not feeling as connected to the second pregnancy, just because I was so, involved in the baby I already had. And I wish someone had talked to me a little bit more about that too, and just know that that's okay, that's normal, that the 5 minutes here or there that you find to connect with your baby, even if it's just right before bed, is enough. And, I also want to say that those first few weeks after my second was born were really hard emotionally. I felt really disconnected then from my first baby. My support system that I had around me for the first week or so before the pandemic sent everybody away. But even my husband, he would often take my toddler, to lunch or outside or just downstairs to play so I could nurse the baby and take a nap and rest or shower. And it was so helpful and so necessary. And it was the best thing for her. But I felt so disconnected from her and so guilty about it. And just, I really felt like my heart was like ripping into. And the only thing that really healed that was those moments where I saw them together and the moments where I saw them connect when kind of everyone went away and it was just the three of us. And that first week or so of it just being the three of us and us having to kind of figure out our new dynamic, then things started to feel a lot more organic and I could start to see and feel how I could possibly love two human beings the most ever. But I won't lie, those first couple of weeks were really emotionally challenging. And I wish someone had just said to me, look, like you're going to miss your older baby. You're going to miss her. She's going to be in your house, but you are, bringing new life into the world and you're its sole provider as far as like breastfeeding and things like that if you're doing that. But even if you're not, there's going to be a lot of people around who want to help your toddler transition. And that is the best thing for your toddler, but it hurts. It hurts and it's hard, and just know that it gets better. All right. And the last topic, the last category is the intangible. Man, the intangible. I'm just going to say that motherhood is like being in a constant state of personal development because my kids are always showing me what triggers me, what delights me, and are constantly evoking some kind of emotion for me to explore. So when I say intangible, I am often referring to spirituality, mindset, meditation, and I think that I would have gotten to this point of interest in myself and my growth either way, but motherhood certainly sped it up. And motherhood certainly calls for more, for me at least, more time of calm, more time of meditation, more time of regulating myself than ever before. And I don't really know if it's something I wish someone told me because I don't really know that you can really get it until you're doing it. But I think just the more conversations we have about really emphasizing and prioritizing taking care of yourself, either honestly before your kids sometimes or just taking care of yourself as you would take care of your newborn, is just really important. I didn't hear phrases like that until after I was already kind of like, whoa, I'm burnt out. What's going on here? And so maybe that's what I would say is take care of yourself like you take care of your newborn and you'll be okay. But ultimately, what I think is the take-home message here, whether you are a mom yet or you're not, whatever phase of this you're in, no matter what anyone says and no matter how many books you read, what I'd love to say to you most about motherhood is that you have to expect the unexpected. You can prepare all you want. You can read all the books. Like I said, you can listen to this podcast episode. But your motherhood journey is going to be so unique to you. You might be the type of person that thinks motherhood's going to look a certain way for you, feel a certain way for you, and you might realize that to be 100% true. You might realize that to be 100% true for your first baby, and bringing in your second baby brings in all new feelings. You might have an opposite experience. You might anything. Just be open to the unexpected and be open for anything and to feel anything and to ultimately know that whatever it is for you, it's okay. However your motherhood journey looks, it's yours and it's okay. And I think as long as your mind is open and you allow for possibilities and you know that is okay to ask for help and support, you'll be all right. We got this. All right. I think that's good. I think that's good for now. I'll be back next week, But in the meantime, if you want to join us for a live discussion on motherhood, pregnancy, and mental health, I'll be leading a panel. Our panelists are Christine McGlinchey, Danielle Smith, and Melissa Fairhurst. We'll be talking at 1 p.m. Eastern on July 31st, live on Zoom. Head over to sasssays.com/panel to sign up, to join us. If you want to hear the conversation but you're not able to join us, go ahead on over there and sign up because I will email a recording out to anyone who signed up and couldn't make it after the fact. If you want to submit questions ahead of time to ask anonymously, you can do that at sign up. Or if you want to submit questions ahead of time because you're not able to make the live, but you have questions, submit them at sign up. All right, I will see you next week. We've got Danielle Smith on the show. And that's all I've got for now. All right, bye. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Sass Says is a production of Luann Nigara, Inc. This podcast is meant to be educational and not meant to replace professional therapy or professional medical attention. To learn more about today's show and what's new in my world, head over to sasssays.com. Thanks so much. Talk later.